It is that time of year where I'm bringing you 5 players that you need to be stashing going into the 2024 season's player that could be getting some high upside as the offseason progressive and maybe even because of the NFL draft. So stay tuned and let's get straight into my 5 stash players. All right, and my first high upside player, one of my favorite players at the running back position. Let's go all the way to Cincinnati. Chase Brown, downtown. Yes, one of my favorite running backs coming out of Illinois in this past NFL draft. And look, there's really just 3 points of why you should be stashing him and keeping him just in case of some good opportunity coming in 2024. My first point here is Joe Moneybags Mixon's contract, right? Coming into this year, the 2023 season, we were already questioning whether he was going to be staying with the Cincinnati Bengals. It wasn't until about mid-July, early August, where we saw Joe Mixon take a pay cut. He took a $4.39 million pay cut to stay with the team. And that is absolutely crazy. And I think going into this year, going into the 2024 season, we can definitely see Joe Moneybag Mixon no longer being with this Cincinnati Bengals team. And that's because he does have an 8.5 cap hit for the Cincinnati Bengals if he does stay with this team as an aging running back that maybe they need to move on from, especially they're going to have to be paying T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, all these other key players that they're going to need to be getting on the books. And Joe Mixon, especially the way the running back market is not somebody that, in my opinion, is going to be a priority going into 2024. Now, going into my next point here really is the 2024 running back class. If you guys haven't been watching all of our Dynasty videos, and especially regarding the running back class, I would have really encouraged you to go watch that because this is not a strong class at all. Yes, there are some players that we like that are some dark horses, but in reality, there are only 2 workload, starting RB1 running backs coming into this draft class, and that is Travion Henderson and Trey Benson. And at this moment, we are not sure. As I'm recording this video, I am not sure if Travion Henderson is going to be going and declaring into the 2024 draft. So we may only see one true start, in my opinion, startable week 1 running back going into 2024 that can easily take a job from anyone. So keep that in mind. I'm not really sure if anyone out of this class could take a job from Chase Brown. Hey, unless they get really high draft capital, maybe they get a 3rd-round draft pick. Maybe it's Marshawn Lord, or maybe it's Sweet Baby Ray Davis. Maybe they do go in the 3rd. Whatever the case may be, a Bucky Irving, they go in the 3rd. That makes sense. But look, if they don't get the draft capital, I can see Chase Brown easily leading this backfield going into 2024. And my last point coming into this, this take here is the opportunities that we've seen in the past in college for Chase Brown and the future opportunities we can potentially see with Joe Mixon out. Let me remind you, coming into this year, his last year in Illinois, he led this team and he led the FBS, right? And my last point coming into this take here is essentially the past opportunities we have seen and the future opportunities we can potentially be seeing with Joe Mixon no longer being on this team. Let me remind you that Chase Brown knows how to handle a workload. Okay, in 2022, Chase Brown, in his last year of college, he was second amongst running backs in college with 329 attempts. If you're worried about him not being able to carry the workload and taking Joe Mixon's opportunities, there's no doubt in my mind he is going to do that. He was 4th amongst running backs in college in 2022 as well. The opportunity is there for Chase Brown. Chase Brown can handle the workload. Chase Brown can take those opportunities from Joe Mixon, that he is going to be projecting, my projection, leaving behind going into 2024. Look, we haven't seen much of Chase Brown this year, but what we have seen are little glimpses and excitement for the Cincinnati Bengals and for Chase Brown if you own him as a fantasy owner, right? I mean, we've seen him in week 14 where he took a catch, for 80 yards against the Indianapolis Colts, right? 80 yards and a touchdown. That was something that we've seen glimpses of. Now, look, we also know that Joe Mixon in 2022 was top 5 in touches at the goal line. This is a high-powered offense that consistently gets into the goal line with a top 5 elite quarterback in Joe Mixon, a top 3, top 2 elite wide receiver in Jamar Chase. This team moves the ball down the field, and there's no doubt in my mind when they get into that goal line, that red zone, that 10-yard, 5-yard line, Chase Brown, if everything does go right, is going to be getting the opportunities in that goal line area. And that's exactly that's essentially what we're asking for. We're asking for the opportunities, the goal line opportunities, the PPR opportunities. If you're in a PPR league, that's exactly what you want here. So if you do have Chase Brown, I highly encourage you to either hold on to him or potentially say, hey, if you're doing a big deal later on, when your trade window does open back up, or maybe you don't have a trade deadline and you can trade however way you want, maybe you get Chase Brown as a throw-in piece. That's how significant, that's how little cost that he could be potentially costing right now if you can go out and go get Chase Brown downtown. My second must stash player coming out at the wide receiver position, one of my favorite wide receivers actually coming out of this past NFL draft class. Keep that in mind. A lot of my favorite players are going to be on this list here. At the wide receiver position, once again, Parker Washington out of Penn State, 5'10", 5'11", 210 plus pounds. Really built like a running back, but someone that had enormous hands, really reliable hands coming out of Penn State, someone that can play the slot or the outside. He gets drafted to the Jacksonville Jaguars, where at the time it was kind of a dead spot because he had Calvin Ridley, you had Christian Kirk, and once again, really similar to the Joe Mixon take. What am I projecting? What am I thinking of the future in 2024? And my biggest caveat here is Calvin Ridley. What is Calvin Ridley and the Jacksonville Jaguars going to be doing going into the 2024 season? And let me just give you a nice little recap. Look, coming into this year, especially in the redraft perspective, Calvin Ridley we saw going in the mid-second, sometimes early second in your redraft leagues, and that was more someone a little bit more conservative, saying that I think you can wait for that value with Christian Kirk. And look, both of these guys well, not both of them, but Christian Kirk gets injured. Calvin Ridley not playing to his expectation. Whether that's Calvin Ridley's fault or Trevor Lawrence's fault, just didn't pay off at the ADP, unfortunately. But you also have to think of the logistics, the NFL standpoint, right? If the Jacksonville Jaguars does re-sign Calvin Ridley, they do have to give an Atlanta Falcons a second-round pick. Whether that is this year or next year, is someone like Calvin Ridley, who is currently 29, going to be a 30-year-old wide receiver, worth a second-round pick? Somebody that has the longevity to build with this young quarterback you have, this young wide receiver, Doug Peterson. I'm not necessarily sure that is going to be the smartest move for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Calvin Ridley. Now, if you would have told me Calvin Ridley was a top 10 wide receiver this year specifically, maybe, he was leading the NFL or top 10, top 5, top 8 in touchdowns and receiving yards, I would have said that makes sense because he is making a massive impact coming into this year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But that is not the case. This team, even though they have been winning games, they're 8-7. They currently have the 27th pick in the NFL draft. They're in this zone where they can't really go out and get a wide receiver, even though the wide receiver class is deep. So there could be opportunity. But anyways, look, moving on from that, which you think about the NFL draft, you think about what do they need? Is this a team that's going to be spending a top 20 pick on a wide receiver? Now, there is plenty of wide receivers that can go in the first round. Is that an Xavier Worthy? Right? Is that a Brian Thomas? Does he fall to the 27th pick? Right? Is that a Troy Franklin? Does he fall to the 27th pick? There are so many different options, so many different wide receivers that this Jacksonville Jaguars team can go out and draft. But when you really think about what this team needs, it's not an offensive weapon, right? They need, you think of the offensive line that has been struggling, the center, a right tackle, if I'm not mistaken, the left tackle, one of the tackles on the left or the right side they've been struggling with. Josh Allen is an unrestricted free agent here. Do they need to go for another, outside linebacker / edge rusher? These are the type of things I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, the type of players they're going to be focusing on in the NFL draft. Now, they do draft the wide receiver. That's great. But at the same time, that is bad for this take. So I'm projecting right now that the Jags aren't going to be drafting a wide receiver going into the 2024 class. Now you think of the future opportunities with someone like a Parker Washington, someone like Christian Kirk, who I believe in is going to continue to be, Trevor Lawrence's favorite target. Somebody else has to emerge. Is that going to be Parker Washington? Is that going to be a Zay Jones? Does Cal really stay on this team? What is going to happen? I don't know, but there is a pathway for Parker Washington to come up and get opportunity in the 2024 season. And once again, if you are looking to acquire someone like a Parker Washington, maybe you are doing trades, like I said, with like similar to Joe Mixon's take. Maybe you don't have a trade window and Parker Washington can just be a throw-in, because we've seen the glimpses. 14 receptions, 19 targets, 119 yards, those strong hands, those tippy toe, touchdown, toe tag, drag, swag from Parker Washington with 2 touchdowns in the end zone. Those are the type of opportunities we've seen, and we've seen him get more and more opportunities when Christian Kirk went down, when Zay Jones went down. That's exactly what you want to see. He's continuing to build his chemistry with Trevor Lawrence, and that's exactly, once again, what you want to see going into this end of this year and potentially going into the 2024 class. So I will be keeping Parker Washington if I were you. My third player on this list, my second running back. Now, this is somebody I wasn't initially high on coming into this past NFL draft, but he does get the draft capital, and there could be a good pathway going into 2024, and that is Kendre Miller. And remind you, out of TCU running back, he did have those injuries, at the college football playoffs and over the NFL combine, over the NFL draft, even early on in preseason. He was struggling with injuries, and he still has been up and down all season. But Kendre Miller coming into this year, going into the 2024 year, could be seeing great opportunity if these things were to happen. Alvin Kamara is going to be potentially leaving this team. He's still a top 6, top 7 running back with all these opportunities. But next year, a $17 million cap hit. They do have an out on Alvin Kamara. But look, this team is going to be in a financial struggle no matter what, whether they keep Alvin Kamara or not. This is one of the worst teams when it comes down to salary cap, according to Over the Cap. Now, I'll be completely honest with you, and please comment down below if you do understand. But at the moment, Over the Cap has the Saints in the negative of like negative 87 million or $98 million, and that is not okay. This team has been struggling. This is one of the teams that has been struggling to sign people because they haven't had the money to get those big money guys. Well, what they've been doing is extending contracts, kept pushing and pushing these contracts into different and further years along down the road, and has been hindering this team, which kind of leads me to my next point of this head coach and GM could potentially be gone. Most likely the head coach, specifically Dennis Allen, just hasn't been stepping up to the plate. There have already been rumors that he could be leaving this team, and the Saints could be parting ways with him. So there could be a whole new regime, a whole new head coach, a whole new staff coming into this Saints organization, because Derek Carr is not the answer, right? Alvin Kamara going into that, curve, when you think about the running back position, as he gets older and older, you're gonna have to move on for some of these players. And yes, you do sign Jamal Williams to a 2 to 3 year contract, but Kendre Miller is your rookie running back. You're gonna have to see what you're gonna have with him. And we were getting some glimpses of him early in the first 3 games, but he did also suffer some injuries where we didn't see him at all, and then Alvin Kamara came back. So look, there are some opportunities when you think of Kendre Miller. Could this be a 50-50 type of workload going into 2024 with Kendre and Jamal? That is something worth noting, because that can be in a flex option. That can be a low-end running back too, depending on how good this offense is going to be and potentially moving down the line. Could this be a 60-40 in favor of Kendre Miller? That is something that we can be looking for. Now, I think this one, Kendre Miller specifically, could be a little bit more difficult to acquire, because there were a lot of people that really liked Kendre coming out of TCU. A lot of people were paying early seconds. They were drafting him in the mid to early second. So I don't think a lot of people are willing to be getting off of Kendrick Miller. But if they do, this is exactly somebody I'm willing to go out and acquire if you need this running back depth. Once again, this 2024 running back class is not the strongest. If you think about a Marshawn Lloyd, if you think about a Ray Davis, I do like these guys potentially, but not over someone like a Kendrick Miller who had and has the draft capital over most of these guys at the moment. I don't know where the guy's going to be drafted, but if you're telling me they're going to get drafted maybe the 3rd or 4th round, we can have a different conversation. But at this moment, Kendrick Miller is somebody I'm willing to stash going into the 2024 season. My 4th must stash player coming on this list at the wide receiver position, and that is Demario Douglas. If I truly had to order these guys in order, Demario Douglas is my #1 priority for you to go out and try to acquire. And let me tell you why. We've seen the glimpses of Demario Douglas step up to the plate, getting these opportunities, having a 5 to 6 to 7, even 9 target type of game, overseeing that thresholds of a 13, 14-point game. We've also seen the down games, right? We've seen him only get 3, 1 target, 2 targets here and there. But that was because the quarterback play has been inconsistent with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. But what is exciting about Demario Douglas is, as I'm recording this video, they currently have the 4th pick in the NFL draft, which tells me that can either be Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels. I'll even throw Bo Nix in there because I'm truly liking the way Bo Nix has been progressing in my eyes. The more film I watch of Bo Nix, I can see him being a New England Patriots. Now, there's a couple of different caveats here. Who's going to be the new head coach? Who's going to be the quarterback? What is this team going to be looking like? What is the competition? Now, let me answer all those questions. Who's quarterback's going to be? No matter, out of all those names I just said, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and or Bo Nix, there could be a massive uptick in production and upside over someone like a Mac Jones and or Bailey Zappi. Who's the head coach going to be? I have no idea. But let me tell you, if Bill Belichick stays, that's great. Or somebody else. We've seen Ben Johnson, one of the favorite NFL coaches of the year, or people saying that he should be in a head coach job. If it's Ben Johnson, I'm excited. It doesn't matter who it is, right? Because whoever they're going to be picking here is going to be taking over a job over Bill Belichick, which is pretty significant. And who's the competition is my last one here. Juju Smith is currently on this team. A 3-year contract doesn't scare me, has been struggling with injuries all year long. Kendrick Bourne, who's also been part of this offense, who has been essentially the #1 wide receiver before he got injured, which I'm okay with because Demario Douglas could be the wide receiver too. But the ceiling and the upside is there, especially with the new quarterback, with the new regime, whatever this is going to look like. Demario Douglas does have one of the highest, I would say, upside out of this list, in my personal opinion, because of the new quarterback play that could potentially be going to this team in 2024. Once again, I'm really excited no matter which 4 quarterbacks I name. Once again, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or Bo Nix. Those guys' ceilings, in my opinion, are significantly higher than the likes of the Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. So if you can, Demario Douglas, once again, if I had to prioritize these guys in order, Demario Douglas is my #1 mustache. And I would also say my #1, go out and try to trade for player going into the 2024 offseason. All right, and last but not least, my other must-stash wide receiver, my 5th mustache player. I'll keep this one short and sweet, and that is Marvin Mims. Now, one of the most recent news with this team is that Russell Wilson is going to be benched, and most likely this team is going to be parting ways with Russell Wilson, which means there's going to be a new head of center essentially here with the Denver Broncos. Who is that going to be? I have no idea. But what I do know is that I trust in Sean Payton. You also have to remember, whether you like the talent, 5'11", 182 pounds, out of Oklahoma, one of my wide receivers I thought that was really underrated. That was one of my dark horse sleepers coming out of this draft class here because of the college he was playing with. We saw the quarterback play in the past couple years with Spencer Rattler. He was struggling, but still had decent amount of numbers. And then he had a new quarterback, right? Look, so many ups and downs with Marvin Mims in his college collegiate career going into this first year of his NFL season. Too many ups and downs with Russell Wilson. Now this Denver Bronco team has a 14 pick as I'm recording this video. I'm doing envision them losing the next 2 games. Maybe they can be as high as the 11th pick. Do they get someone like a Bo Nix, a JJ McCarthy, a Michael Penix, whatever that looks like? Once again, you have to remember that Marvin Mims was the first pick of Sean Payton's Broncos coach, career for the Denver Broncos, essentially, which is significantly important when you think of the longevity of this offense, because Jerry Jeudy is most likely going to be walking. Courtland Sutton is most likely going to be walking, because we've had these conversations coming into the 2023 season. Where's Jerry Jeudy going to go? They were talking about trading him before the trade deadline. Same thing with Courtland Sutton. Where was he going to go? They were talking about trading him. So many different scenarios and opportunities that these teams could have went, that this player could have happened to. So look, if there's a new quarterback, this new upside is higher. This is not a team that essentially is going to be looking for talent specifically at the wide receiver position in the NFL draft. Most likely in the offseason, do they go out and get these lower tier wide receivers coming out of the free agencies? When I say lower tiers, I'm thinking of the Darnell Mooney's. Maybe not. I won't put Calvin Ridley in the lower tier. What if Calvin Ridley just goes to the Denver Broncos and Marvin Mims is wide receiver too? Those are the type of opportunities I'm thinking of for the Denver Broncos to get a wide receiver, not necessarily in the NFL draft. But look, once again, anything can happen. So Marvin Mims is my last mustache player on this list. Those are my 5 mustache players going into the 2024 season. Make sure you comment down below any questions, comments, or concerns, or players that I have missed, or maybe I should do a part 2 for you guys. Before I let you go, our 2024 rookie scouting package is officially out. All you have to do is go to flockfantasy.com/land, sign up with the Mother Flocker tier, and that's exactly it. That's all you have to do, and that is going to be yours. And this is a little sneak peek here. You can see this is Marvin Harrison Jr. This is the time and effort that Zach and I have put in to create something amazing for you, giving you all our thoughts of the 2024 prospects coming in: wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, quarterbacks, all of the players that are going to be going in. We have a full scouting package for you guys. So once again, flockfantasy.com/land, the best place to support what we're doing. Not only do you get our scouting package, you get our fantasy hotline, a 24/7 hotline service for what Zach and myself are in season, off Dynasty rankings, Superflex, one quarterback, whatever the case may be, whatever you need. Once again, all at flockfantasy.com/land. We appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you had a good Christmas, Happy New Year, and as always, it's all love.
Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh,
it's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.